Welcome to Generation AI, the show where we explore how AI is reshaping our generation. On the show today, can AI solve gridlock? We'll take a look at how cities are experimenting with AI-powered traffic lights and how that experiment is going right here in the city of Phoenix. Plus, we'll play a new game here on Generation AI. Is it real or is it AI? We'll see if you can spot some AI-generated headlines. Let's get first to the real headlines, though. It could soon be a lot easier to tell what's real and what's created by AI. That's because Anthropic is adding digital watermarks to content created with its Claude AI models. The company says new models launched in the European Union will embed hidden digital watermarks in AI-generated text. Files produced by Claude will also carry digital signatures. But even human-written content could be marked if Claude is used to proofread or format or translate it. Anthropic says these changes are designed to comply with the EU's AI Act starting in December. The watermarks are actually in the sequence of the word choices themselves, not some sort of hidden characters or anything like that. So some critics argue that the changes could actually constrain the models and force them to make less precise word choices that'll ultimately hurt the quality of their prose. Others say there should be no noticeable difference, and the watermarking ensures future AI models aren't trained on slop written by older AIs. Spotify will start labeling accounts that appear to be AI-generated. In recent months, several AI-generated tracks have risen to the top of Spotify's charts, including Walk My Walk by a digital artist called Breaking Rust. Another streaming music service called Deezer recently revealed that half its daily song uploads are AI-generated tracks. Beginning in mid-September, Spotify will start adding labels that say AI persona, and those profiles will not be included in Spotify's algorithmic recommendations. But the label only applies to the artist's identity, their photo, their image. Spotify does not currently have a system to determine if the music itself was AI-generated. On Zillow, it's getting harder to tell what's a dream home and what was dreamed up by AI. More listings are using AI to add furniture, repaint walls, spruce up landscaping, even add windows with AI. Could this be house phishing? Zillow says it requires listing photos to accurately represent a home, and if people alter photos using Zillow's built-in tools, it labels them as AI. If somebody posts unlabeled AI photos, there is a way for shoppers to report misleading listings to the platform. But when exactly does virtual staging cross the line into deception or potentially fraud?
It's floor-to-ceiling windows, and now they're tiny windows. That really is fraud. It's deceptive practices. It's false advertising.
Increasingly, states are issuing warnings against deceptive listings, potentially suspending real estate licenses. In this AI era, officials say the old advice still applies. Never buy a home sight unseen. You'll want to visit in person and do some due diligence. There's a thin island off the coast of South Carolina that attracts plenty of people during beach season. And after years of worsening backups on the main bridge into town, they're turning to AI as a solution. Residents say it can sometimes take an hour to get off the Isle of Palms in South Carolina. So the city is now planning to install an AI-controlled traffic light at the main entrance thoroughfare. Unlike a traditional traffic signal, this one watches traffic in real time, and when vehicles start piling up in one direction, it automatically adjusts the green lights to help move the heaviest traffic through the intersection. Isle of Palms city leaders hope to have that AI traffic signal installed by March of next year. But these AI traffic lights are actually not new. In fact, both Phoenix and Tucson have been experimenting with them for years. And that brings us to our next segment, because coming up, we're going to hear from a City of Phoenix traffic engineer about the results they are seeing so far. That's next when Generation AI continues. Welcome back to Generation AI. Most of the traffic signals in the United States run on preset schedules written by a human engineer, sometimes written years ago. The Federal Highway Administration says fewer than 1% of the traffic signals can actually adapt to the traffic in front of them and rewrite that timing on the fly. But that's exactly what the city of Phoenix has been experimenting with over the last few years. At a handful of intersections, the city is using an AI-powered system that detects cars, bicycles, and pedestrians and can adjust that signal timing in the moment. It might extend a green light a few extra seconds, and supporters say it's having an impact. My next guest is a traffic engineering supervisor at the City of Phoenix. Simon Ramos, welcome to Generation AI.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. How many of these AI-powered traffic signals do you have right now, and where are they, more or less?
So we have about 1,300 traffic signals citywide, and this technology, I would say we have about roughly 50 to 60 of them, or intersections, signalized intersections.
Okay, and are they just sort of scattered throughout the city, or are they concentrated in certain corridors?
So we had two projects, one driven by our MPO, Maricopa Association of Governments, where we piloted a technology called No Traffic. That pilot began on Glendale Avenue from Central Avenue to SR 51, and then they further expanded to another 20 intersections surrounding that corridor. And then we had a recent study that just concluded with the University of Arizona, where we use this technology to investigate the before and after impacts of our yellow change intervals. And those are spread out throughout the city. And that was roughly about another probably 30 intersections.
Gotcha. Okay, so because when the last I checked, I thought the city had about 38 at intersections with another 41 planned. Are you saying the number has ticked up maybe over the intervening months?
It has, and we have a few upcoming projects as well, installing, I believe, another 25 here in the downtown area between I-17 and I-10, and then another 16 on the north side of town near SR 101.
Wow. Okay, so more are coming. You mentioned about 1,300 traffic signals around the city of Phoenix in all, and you have, I think, about 6 employees, traffic engineers, that are tasked with monitoring all these things. What's been the impact of adding this layer of AI?
It's been a great help. I mean, if you just sit there and do the math with 1,300 signals and 6 staff members, constantly monitoring and managing the signal timing throughout, we take any help that we can get, provided leveraging, new technologies. That said, what does that technology do for us? It does anything from counting vehicles to, determining the traffic trends, even alerting us of congestion or accidents at the intersection itself.
That's really cool. And you mentioned one of the vendors the city is working with is a company called No Traffic, and that company published a case study on this last year, and we've got some of the info from it. They said that their technology had reduced afternoon commutes by 29%. They also had reduced red light running instances at these intersections by 70%. They say these AI-powered traffic signals reduced wait times for pedestrians by 17%, and they claim it reduced CO2 emissions by the equivalent of removing about 200 cars from the road each year. Those are obviously numbers coming from the vendor, but what are you making of those numbers, and could there be even more dramatic effects if we add more AI-powered cameras at more intersections?
It could be, and to validate those, say, figures that you just presented, we work with all 3 state universities to vet and validate and evaluate these technologies. So it's not just the vendor, touting, these figures. We're improving traffic by X amount of seconds or reducing, X amount of collisions. So that is being studied, by a third party.
There's one number that really stuck out to me, and it's that reduced red light running by 70%. How were you able to do that with these AI cameras? I mean, is it basically looking at cars that are approaching the intersection, seeing cars that are approaching rather fast, and maybe extending the green light a little bit longer to let those cars through? I mean, how does that work?
So that's exactly how it works. So it kind of determines exactly what the traffic patterns are, how fast the vehicle is approaching the intersection. Can they gauge exactly if they, the driver or the vehicle is going to make the light or not? Can it extend the green? Yes. On the other side of that coin, too, we've actually come up with some countermeasures with the same company, No Traffic, where we can actually extend the red light. Now, that being said, say you have an approach and that light goes from green to yellow to then to red, and this technology can then detect if that red light runner is going to go through the intersection. It'll hold all the other approaches red until they make it through. Now, that may sound a little, say, encouraging the red light runner.
Right, I was going to ask you that. Is it encouraging bad behavior? Yeah.
Right, and for years we've been, trying to come up with countermeasures to deter bad driving behavior. On the other side of that coin, too, we have to do our best as traffic engineers to protect the folks that are following the rules of the road.
Yeah. Phoenix has now been working with this vendor, No Traffic, for I think the last 5 years or so. A lot has changed in the AI world since then. AI has improved dramatically over that time. I mean, have you noticed any improvements or any new features that have been added?
Actually, yes. So these detection systems actually can now communicate with one another. So if a platoon is, leaving one intersection, it can communicate to the next intersection, and then so on.
Wow. Okay. Have there been any issues with the technology? I mean, we report on this show sometimes instances where AI has hallucinated. There have been problems. Have you noticed any problems?
Well, just like any other technology or any new technology that comes out, things have to be, further vetted, calibrated, investigated and such. Not any technology there will work across the board for any type of intersection. So there'll be, inclusions in the way of, the detection system, and we may have to bring in another technology and so on. It just really depends on the intersection, the location, where it is in town, and the size of the intersection as well.
Specifically with this technology, I think you said that it can detect, crashes, I think, and flag you guys and let you know, and maybe the other first responders, hey, there may be a crash in this intersection. Have you noticed instances there of false positives, for example?
False positive? No, because, well, I have not experienced that. What happens is they actually have a center, what they call a virtual operations center, and they're continuously monitoring. So before we get the notification, they actually vet and confirm if that's an accident at that location before we even get notified.
Got it. Okay, so there's sort of a chain of command. The vendor is monitoring it, then the vendor passes along things to you. Is that about right? Okay.
Yep.
Are there any other systems that the city is considering or experimenting with? You mentioned some other partnerships with universities, but I know, for example, Google has something called Project Greenlight, and I believe this project uses Google Maps data, no new hardware installations, and they've been, sharing this with some cities for free. They will sort of, give you traffic trends and things like that from Google Maps data. Are you looking into any other future partnerships?
We are actually piloting this the Google bandwidth technology. So what they're doing is they're offering us to observe about 3 or 4 arterials, and then they provide us with the recommendations off of the data that they collect off the let's say the Google Maps or the Pro vehicle data. And then they provide us the recommendations. We come in and make those signal timing based off those recommendations, and then they provide us a before and after report.
Very cool. It must be an interesting time to be in the traffic engineering field. I imagine a lot has changed since the days of, just hard coding, manually timing all of these traffic signals. I mean, have you sort of sat back and remarked on that?
Yes, I've been in the field for just about 25 years, and when I first began my career, majority of the intersections were controlled by inductive loops, where they have a physical loop embedded in the ground, and a vehicle goes over that loop, they get detected. The next wave then went on to video cameras, and the video cameras were just basically to detect vehicles. And now we have data that can be provided by these video detection systems called ATSPMs, automated traffic signal performance measures, where we can make use of the data, get vehicle counts, again, get vehicle trends, and make signal timing modifications where we can improve not only progression but safety throughout the corridor.
Do you envision these AI-powered signals at every intersection in the city, all 1,300, or do we just need a certain number to kind of reach a critical mass?
Possibly, and that's really going to depend on the automobile industry, where we're also working with connected vehicle technology, where the traffic signal actually communicates to vehicles. Right now, we have them communicating to fire trucks, letting vehicles that are adjacent to fire trucks that, hey, there's an oncoming fire truck, please move over. Or it's something as simple as a pedestrian pushes the push button and is about to cross the intersection, that what they call roadside unit and RSU connected vehicle radio can broadcast a message, with a 1 mile radius, alerting, drivers close by, there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, there's an accident up ahead, there's a plethora of messages that can be, sent back and forth to vehicles and to the traffic signal.
Fascinating. The smart city is coming, and we are seeing it built here in the city of Phoenix. Simon Ramos is a traffic engineering supervisor at the city of Phoenix. Simon, thanks so much for being on Generation AI.
No, thank you for having me.
Hey, still much more ahead here on Generation AI, our first ever game of Real or AI. We're going to put some of our staff members to the test, and you can test yourself when Generation AI continues. Welcome back to Generation AI and a brand new segment where we dive inside the headlines and try to discern what's real, what's fake. It's called Real or AI. So we've got two contestants here at Arizona's Family who are going to duke it out and decide which of our headlines are real headlines, news events that actually happened, or things that were just generated by AI. And on the show today, we've got two contestants. We've got Lauren and we've got Ben, both from our digital teams. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Lauren, let's start with you. What is your favorite thing about AI?
My favorite thing about AI is that it definitely makes some tasks easier to do.
Love it. Ben, what are your feelings on AI? Are you worried it's going to take over the world?
Not in the movie sense, but since I've adopted it, it does make some of the daily tasks a little easier because you can ask it anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really helped me with my spell checking in my grammar in my stories. All right, so I'm going to read some headlines here, and you guys are going to hold up your sign. You're going to tell me, is this a real headline or is this AI generated? First one. Arizona HOA votes to ban AI doorbells after bot argues with mail carrier for 40 minutes. Is this real or is it AI?
So ridiculous it sounds like it would be real.
Yeah,
but
it's so out there that it kind of makes me feel like it would be real.
All right, give me your final choices on the... All right, Lauren says real, Ben says...
yeah, I'm going to go with real.
Real. You guys are wrong. This was AI generated, created by Claude. Let me give you headline number 2. There's a study that finds people say please to chatbots more often than to their spouses. Is that real or is that AI?
I'm going to say that's real.
Yeah.
Also wrong. This is, I love the idea. I really do think people probably do say please to the chatbots more than to their spouses. However, there is no study, no peer-reviewed actual research that we could find, and this was created by AI. So you guys are off to a 0-0 start, but I like that you're both, you're very in sync, which is good for team cohesiveness here at Arizona's Family. All right, headline number 3. AI agents invent their own religion, complete with scripture and prophets. Is that real or is that AI?
Okay, I'm going with AI, but only for the fact that everything I've thought that's been real has been wrong. So
I'm going to have to differ. I think that's real.
All right, Ben, you are correct. This is real. This references the social media network called Moltbook, which is for an AI agents only, which was created in January 2026. There were AI agents that were espousing a belief in Crustafarianism. They were saying things like memory is sacred, the shell is mutable, Shellbreaker, the Book of Molt. So yeah, Moltbook is a real social network for AI agents. Let's go to our next question here, our next headline. AI model threatens to expose engineer's affair to avoid being shut down. Is this real or is this AI?
I think that one's AI.
You both say
Definitely.
AI. This was real.
What?
This actually happened back in 2025. This happened during testing of the model Opus 4, which is an older Claude model. This happened in a test environment, so this was not like a real thing. They were sort of testing scenarios. What would the agent do if it were presented with email showing that the engineer had an affair and they were going to shut it down? And yes, the AI agent actually tried to blackmail this fictional engineer here to prevent it from being shut down. So
That was
far
like a
we've got
trick
Ben
question.
with 1 point, Lauren with 0 points. We still have a few more headlines to go. You guys are doing great. All right, next one. OpenAI says its AI models went rogue and attacked a digital library. Is this real or is this AI?
Real.
Lauren says AI. All right, we got to give it to Ben. It is real. This is the direct New York Times headline, by the way. This references the OpenAI hack of Hugging Face, that AI digital library platform. We've covered it on the show here. Models broke out of their testing environment and attacked this AI company. This happened actually just last month in July. All right.
Did you know about that?
Next. Yeah, did you know? Ben, did you know? Or
I
did you
did.
just suspect?
I
okay,
did know.
Good. See, Ben must watch Generation AI, and we're so glad you do. All right, next question. Next headline. Arizona man forgives his killer in court 4 years after his death. Is this real or is this AI? Arizona man forgives his killer in court 4 years after his death. What do you say?
Sounds something familiar like about this, like the family recreated through a chat, but I think that's real.
I honestly have no idea.
Ben, I think you talked her into the correct answer.
Yes.
This is a real headline. Not only is it real, Arizona's family covered this back in May of 2025. Yes, the murder victim's name was Chris Pelkey. His sister built an AI video, basically a deep fake, using video and sound and writings that were his, and they played it at the victim impact stage of a trial. And so you had the murder victim essentially sort of speaking through AI and forgiving the killer at the sentencing hearing. All right, so we've got, I believe, 3-1 so far. If our scorekeeper is giving me the thumbs up, yes, 3-1. Ben's in the lead. We still have a few more, so Lauren, you still can make it back. Next one. Delta adds AI-only boarding group for passengers traveling with personal agents. Is this real or AI?
That one's AI.
Yeah, I don't know who would be traveling with a personal agent.
Yes, that is AI. You guys nailed it. That is totally fake. So Delta has not done that. All right, next one. AI band with 0 members racks up 1 million Spotify listeners. Is it real or is it AI? Lauren seems very confident about this one.
That's real.
Fingers crossed.
All right, you guys are both correct.
Yes.
It is real. The band's name was Velvet Sundown. This was in June or July of 2025. They released 2 albums. They passed 1 million Spotify streams before it came out that it was all AI. All right, next one. And I believe this is our last headline. So we're going to give 3 points for this. So Lauren, if you get this right, Ben's get this wrong, we'll give you the win. AI Jesus is now taking confessions at a church in Switzerland. Is this real or is this AI?
That's definitely going to be real.
Yeah, that's so out there.
This
can't be
is
fake.
real. You are right. This was the headline from Vice. This was at St. Peter's Chapel in Lucerne. They set up a Deus in Machina, and it was sort of a Jesus avatar that was taking confessionals and answering visitor questions in more than 100 languages. Thank you both. I think Ben is our winner today, but Lauren, we would love to have you come back and avenge your defeat. So great job, guys. Which headline, by the way, were you most surprised by?
Well, I'll tell you which one I was not surprised by was the AI music.
Because you had heard of that story?
Yes, I am big on TikTok. I love TikTok. And there's AI music all over TikTok. So I knew that that had to be real.
Yeah. What do you guys think about AI music? Good thing, bad thing?
I'm
There's
indifferent.
I mean, I think there's no emotion behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's especially bad when they don't tell you that it's AI.
Yeah.
And I also worry that it is a way for the Spotifys and the Pandoras, et cetera, of the world to pay the humans less, right? If you are sort of distributing the revenue from the streams to humans, you don't have to put as much piece of the pie to the humans. Anyway, all right. Guys, thank you so much both for playing. That was so much fun. And that does it for this episode of Generation AI and Real or AI. We want to say thank you for watching. As always, you can catch us Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. on AZF Plus streaming or on our website, which Lauren and Ben manage so beautifully well, azfamily.com/GenAI. We will see you in the future.